from it. And if he sells what it really is, if he says, well, it was a UFO, then he's talking about extraterrestrials. So he's between a rock and a hard place. So what does he do? He distances himself. He says, another place, another time, kind of move on from there. And that's his position. That's his current position to it, which I find just amazing. And then, of course, this Vatican comes out and says the extraterrestrial is our brother. And then we get the whole idea of all religions are equal. That sounds like a one-world religious system in the making to me. And this all mirrors what's written in these 1,000-year-old prophecies.
Was he given advice?
I think he's brought in. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how it works, but I think certain people on this planet know. The gentleman I spoke to a couple of days on the phone, he told me when he was meeting with these men, he wouldn't go into detail. He just said that many people know what's really going on. And he said the fact that the History Channel is airing all this stuff about ET constantly, and they are. I mean, there's shows on UFOs on the History Channel all day long almost. And, Roswell crash, and they do pros and cons. It's not all one side, but I find it just amazing. And I think it's, again, I think it's an acceleration. I think it's ramping up and moving towards this revealing, moving towards the time when we have full disclosure.
Well, here we go. Hold on. It's going to be one heck of a ride then, Lynn.
I agree.
How does this tie into some of the secret societies?
Well, this is what I'm working on for my next book. I believe that there are secret societies. Certainly, I mean, there are Mason chapters, all Masonic lodges all over the United States. I've had an interview with a former Mason, and he left the organization when he realized who it was and what it was they were worshiping. And it's not what many people believe it is. And he was, of course, ostracized from the group. And this man has a brother who hasn't really spoken to him since he left the Masons, which is about 20 years. And he tells me that he went to the Masonic Lodge, and his pastor was there. Some of the elders in the church were there. So he's figuring it's a great club and something to get into, and apparently it wasn't. And he got out when he realized who it was that was behind it and who it was he was worshiping. And he goes into further detail. But I believe that there are secret societies, certainly the Illuminati, the Bilderbergers, the Trilateral Commission, the Council on Foreign Relations, and they all sound wonderful. But listen to this. Let me get it here.
All right.
Interesting article. And basically what it's talking about is a group of people are meeting, and they're getting together, and they're talking about what is coming and what they want to do. And it's Henry Kissinger was there, Gorbachev was there, and several Rupert Murdoch was there.
Brzezinski had to have been there.
Probably,
he's always
likely. And what they're all talking about, globalization. That word is used by every speaker, globalization. It is going someplace. I mean, they want this one world government system. I mean, just look at the EU. Why is that doing what it's doing? Why are they talking about currency, the American dollar, like the euro dollar, the same thing like the Amero dollar or whatever it's going to be, which will be able to be used in Mexico, Canada, and the United States. I mean, if that's true, everything is moving towards this and pushing towards this one world government, which again ties into ancient prophecies. I'm not making this stuff up. It talks about a one world government, a one world religious system, and that prophecy is 2,000 years old, and yet, excuse me, we see this lining up right in front of us with articles every day. You just have to know where to look.
Well, you all right?
Yeah.
Why don't you get something to drink there, and
thank you.
I'll talk my way through this. All right, as we look at this entire scope then, and I don't see you as a doom and gloomer. I see you as someone who's just laying it out there for us.
Yeah, the end of this thing is amazing in the sense that the world changes. History as we know it stops. Yeshua comes back, and I've already talked about, here's a guy that heals everything, knows how to weather control. I mean, he's got the thing in his hand, so to speak, and he's benevolent. He's wonderful. So I'm voting for him. I can trust him. Seems like I can trust him from, just reading the mythos and what he talks about. But this other stuff that's going to happen, and this other being is apparently extremely malevolent. Here's just, we talked about just a couple of breaks ago,
sure,
about when I was in front of that person who I believe was demon-possessed, and how it befuddles your mind, how it, like, that there's power there, and it's evil. And last time I was on the show, we talked about the Mothman, and how when the Mothman appeared to this particular witness, he was totally overwhelmed. He used the word, it was wickedness manifesting in his room. And with that in mind, excuse me, we have to realize that what is coming is wicked, is evil. Part of what I'm writing about is this whole idea of this occult society. That, let's say, Adolf Hitler was an occult atom.
Oh, big time. And
I had it recently. I had the opportunity to speak to an ex-Nazi. The guy's 96 years old. And he wouldn't really come on the record. And one of the first things out of his mouth was, well, we all didn't like Hitler. So that was kind of interesting.
Well, he's smart to take that position.
Of course, he has to. And whether or not he was involved in paperclip, who knows. But I said, look, I'm doing research. Can I ask you a question? And reluctantly, he said, okay, ask me a question. And I asked him, I said, according to my research, Hitler was an occult adept. Is that true? Hitler was involved in the occult. And I'm not making this stuff up for drama, but he looked at me with a very faraway look in his eyes. The man's 96 years old. And he very softly said, yes, you could say that. And he shook his head slightly. I mean, it was like right out of some movie or something. And I was taken aback by that. I was kind of blown away by that. So, I wish I could sit the guy down and really and follow up with more questions to that. But it's kind of interesting. I've always believed that Hitler was an occult adept, and I believe that the Holocaust was a Luciferian sacrifice. I believe it cracked something which allowed the Foo Fighters in, which allowed the whole present-day UFO phenomena to really take off in the way that it's taken off. And it's burgeoning, and it's headed towards something, and it's not good where it's headed.
What an incredible story. Okay, stick around, because next up we're going to open up the phone lines and give you an opportunity to talk with L.A.Marzulli about the things that you've heard us talk about tonight. I'm George Noory. This is Coast to Coast AM. Okay, phone lines. They're already jammed. L.A.Marzulli, our guest, will be back in a moment on Coast to Coast AM. And welcome back to Coast to Coast. George Noory with you. We're going to take your phone calls, Lynn. We've got a whole bunch of them for you, so we'll get into them right away. What else are you working on these days?
Well, we're trying to get a blog up. Hopefully in the next 2 weeks we'll have the blog. And the reason for that is there's just so much going on. I do a monthly newsletter, but it's stuff's happening like every week, and I need to keep commenting on it. So it'll be daily posts, definitely a daily blog, and that's really, I'm kind of spearheading that, and of course researching for the next book, which I've actually started writing. It's outlined, and it's hopefully it'll be done in about 6 months. We'll see.
And the other ones are still available, the Nephilim trilogy and the politics, prophecy,
correct.
And
best place to get that is on my website, spiraloflife.com.
Okay, very good. To the phones we go. Wildcard line, Bruce in San Jose, California. Hey, Bruce, thanks for calling.
Hey, George.
Yeah.
First, I wanted to say that Lynn's new book is outstanding. I've read it, and it has a big finale at the end.
Thanks, Bruce. Appreciate that.
Now, my question for Lynn is, do you believe that the Antichrist is on the scene? And if so, can you speculate on who that might be?
Wow. It's really a loaded question. I think he is on the scene. I don't think the spirit of the Antichrist has entered into him yet. I actually have a theory on that. It's kind of the central part of a new book I'm working on, the whole idea of a Luciferian dialectic, which simply is this conflict, counter-conflict synthesis, and the synthesis of what we're looking at in the geopolitical landscape, I think, will culminate in the rise of this particular person who is the Antichrist. I won't speculate right now. Let me finish the book and then we'll get into it. But I think he's on the scene, and I think we'll see it manifest.
Okay, you know the end times prophecy about the Revelation, the Book of Revelation, talks about the Antichrist. The Antichrist will enter this individual, but the individual in question, as you said, does not know he or she is the Antichrist.
Right.
At all.
Yeah, it's pretty weird.
It's like he's taken over.
Yeah, it's pretty weird. At some point in time, he becomes possessed with it. At some point in time, it's
possessed and obsessed.
Yes, completely.
Next,
very strange stuff.
Jake in Kentucky, east of the Rockies. Go ahead, Jake.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Sure.
Really good program this evening.
Thanks, Jake.
intrigue meter is